Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Arena, a podcast that allows a space to explore leadership practices and perspectives of people who are in the arena. Today, we will be discussing the ways our human resources team balances systems that keep our organization moving while building relationships that empower individual people as well as the collective team. Today, we'll be making history by bringing not one, but two exceptional leaders. Our first guest is Dr. Diane Perez, who joined Walnut Valley Unified just days before we shut down in March 2019. And a short while later, Human Resources welcomed the wonderful Dr. Seth Bond. This dynamic duo has strengthened systems and found ways to build relationships during a period of time when people were physically distanced and working from home. Seth, can you tell us a little bit about your current role and what you like most about it?
First of all, thank you for the warm introduction. That was amazing. I don't think we were quite prepared for that, but do appreciate that. I'm currently the director in human resources, and my current role, I believe some of the best pieces of my job are being able to work with people. I mean, if you're in human resources, you've got to be able to work with people and enjoy all types of individuals and learn from everybody. I think right now, one of my biggest, I don't know if it's a challenge or a gift, is that I'm not coming into human resources with any experience actually in human resources. Just the learning that I've been able to get from everybody on this team, obviously including our other guest here today, Dr. Perez, who's been a great leader for me to learn from. So, and just the organization as a whole. I mean, Walnut Valley has been an exceptional place for me to come to and learn from. So I think that's probably the best I can do for that one.
I appreciate it.
You're certainly welcome.
Diane, one of the challenges of human resources is having to have those courageous conversations. What are two important things to keep in mind during those conversations to ensure the values of our organization is reflected?
Gosh, what a great question. I think, and I actually have, I always think of my inspiration for my books, but one of the books I really love is Courageous Conversations. I think some of the things that I reflect on is seeing other people's needs before I go into those conversations as important as my own, right? Really being able to step back, because it's really hard when we're in crisis or when we feel something's been done to us. And so one of my favorite sayings is we're all 2-year-olds in our own conflict, but it's so much easier for me, just like you as a principal, Dr. Wendland, it's easier when it's somebody else's crisis to step back and see the other side. And so I think that one of the tools we have here is that we have a leader that really supports us in embracing, stepping back and seeing someone else's needs. So doing that, I think, is important. The second thing is really using our community and the people that you trust on your team. The cabinet, I'm in Dr. Bond's office. 25 times a day, just asking them questions, running things. So I think really going to people to make sure that what's in your blind before you have that conversation, that they will expose it to you and say, hey, have you ever considered this? And then, of course, finally is listening. Sometimes I myself included, have got into conversations ready to just, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that. And Dr. Bond goes, hey, maybe just listen. And you listen, and the problem that you thought was the problem was really not the problem. The other thing I would say, I know I have a lot to say about it, I think I've just been in so many difficult conversations and crucial conversations, is what is the goal? What's the intent? And even no matter what, I believe in the philosophy, the intent is to improve the relationship. And by going into that means I start with the end in mind. And so even though I know it's going to be difficult, I always want to assure someone that I have good intent, that I do trust that it could be better, that it would be better. And then I think the last thing is sometimes we are so afraid to say the truth that we dance so much that the person is confused and really doesn't have the message. It's so critical that if you are, especially if you're a leader, you leave that conversation making sure the message you intended to give was received. And you do that by checking for understanding. You do that by being prepared to give examples. And most importantly, saying, and this is how I'm going to support you. in this journey. So those are just a few things that come to mind.
That clarity is so important and not always easy, because sometimes we are relaying information, which brings me to my next question, because you've been tasked with understanding the constant changes in the guidelines provided by public health, which I think if we as individuals were responsible for listening and then imagining what that means and applying it to our own school sites, it would be a little chaotic. But Seth, you took something as mundane as COVID-19 guidelines and safety protocols, and you turned it into a weekly show that people, one, not only understand what the guidelines are and how to apply them, but we really enjoy it. Can you share how that platform reflects what you believe about leadership?
Thanks for saying that. The Seth and Kina show, as it's been dubbed here recently, is kind of taken on a life of its own, and it was something that started off as just relaying information, but because it's a weekly occurrence, we wanted it to be like meaningful, but also somewhat entertaining in a way, so that people do want to learn about things and also just want to tune in. So it is, like you said, nobody wanted COVID to happen, obviously. So it's one of those things in leadership, you get thrust into a situation where there is something that it needs to be addressed, has to be addressed. And this is obviously something about safety. So we want to take it seriously, but at the same time, have fun along the process. So we've incorporated different people, sharing jokes in different weeks, incorporated kind of a theme to it. And it's kind of a talk show, and I do most of the talking, and Kina's kind of my sidekick who, is the serious one and takes some of the things that I say and interprets them in a better way. So it's been oddly enough something that I'm actually pretty proud of. It's the way that we're able to communicate, and the best part about it for me too is that just the collection of people that are in the weekly show. We've got the COVID compliance officers, which are primarily our administrative assistants at the elementary schools and different members across the district, and then there's cabinet members and principals, and we're all kind of hearing it together, but helping guide the school. So this built some leadership, I hope, and some of those other individuals too that are joining in across their sites.
Every time I learn from you or talk with you, just in getting through like daily tasks, I always hear the same message of how important people are to you. And I think that that's really personified in the way that you treat people. And it's pretty amazing. I think that our current HR team has done such an exceptional job of putting the human part of human resources. And I know that might sound cliche, but it would be so much easier just to hide behind the rules and the systems and the tasks. And yet you both bring the heart of who you are. And it's pretty spectacular and not true everywhere. So I always love hearing how you do that and what that looks like for you. Diane, you have experience serving and leading in various roles, and I was wondering what one piece of advice you would give to someone just starting out in a leadership role.
So if you are in a place that you have been before, so Dr. Winland moving up through organization, or what I experienced in San Jacinto, or what Dr. Bond experienced in Corona Norco, I would say, and I borrow from a title of a book I've since learned, that the skills that got you here won't keep you here. So a lot of times we're tapped on because we're so efficient, we're good. We say yes to everything, and then we say yes to more, and we exceed expectations. But when you go into a leadership role, you are now leading through other people. And the easiest thing to do is to do what you already know how to do. The hardest thing to do is lead. And the one thing that leaders do that no one else gets to do is make decisions. And now we're in a place to make decisions. And like I said, it's so easy to default. But learning to lead is so critical. And the only way I know how to do that and have been successful and have failed at it is through mentorship. And those mentors don't necessarily have to be people that have sat in your seat or are above you. They can be people that are next to you in other districts. They can be people that work for you. They can be people at school sites, and they can be your boss. And so I would say mentorship and relearning what leadership was really about. I'll stop there because you said one thing.
No, that's really helpful. Seth, human resources holds the key to the past, the present, and the future of the organization because it's where people start and finish their careers. How do you help the human resources team balance the systems and foster those rich relationships with people throughout the organization?
I think the most important piece of that for our team is customer service, and it's all about the way people feel when they come into an organization and the way they feel when they're leaving the organization, and all the different times that they would deal with human resources in between those two times. So, I distinctively remember my first teaching job going into human resources in the way that I was greeted and the way that I felt. And I want that same experience here, whether it's a certificated or classified employee who's coming into this office through the hiring process and then coming in here to sign a contract for the first time, all the way to just yesterday we had a retirement celebration for 43 people in Walnut Valley. And whether they were here, we had people from 7 years to 40 years retiring yesterday. And so we would like all of them to think of the time that they spent here fondly. I've been very lucky. I've had 5 or 6 different positions in education, and I loved every one of them. I've either got a bad memory or I just don't remember the bad things. I enjoyed every one of those steps along the way, and I hope that other people, have that same experience. So if we can do something to kind of create that for other people, then I want them to look back on Walnut Valley and be happy that they were employed here, enjoyed their time here, made friends here, and made a difference.
I think that's a great way to tie your leadership belief in with what's happening with HR and the work that you and Diane have done specific to this department. As principals, we know how much you care for us and for other people because we get those behind the scenes conversations. But what's really affirming is, back to Diane's point, watching you both lead through others, because it has become how human resources works. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. That love for people is really coming through. So it makes sense that the core belief between the both of you is always about how people feel and are treated. It's pretty spectacular.
I know not a question you asked, but I just, Seth makes me better though every day. You know what I mean? Our yin and yang, then you said you want to be the yang. Our approach and love for people are the same. I mean, but our approaches can be different, but he makes me better. And having that person that you can trust no matter what, bad day, good day, to come in the office and go, I don't think I have it today. And he's like, I got you. Where do you get that?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you get that? And that, I think, is why I think that I've been able to grow here. I'm 53 years old and I've grown so much under new leadership, a new team. It's because of the love that hopefully is exemplified here, but that we show each other in Walnut, I think makes a difference. But a partner, nothing better.
It's that iron sharpens iron mentality.
Yes.
Where leadership is never comfortable and either is growth, but having the people that you trust enough to care for you and help us to level up really does change the game, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
What's your favorite part, Diane, about your current role?
Watching other people grow. I've had every position that I wanted in education and positions I didn't want, and tapped on for those positions, and to get to choose to come back to my passion in human resources and then only come to one place. Well, let's be honest, people said there's only one person that could handle you, and that's Dr. Taylor. But to get to come here knowing that, and I think people knowing I have no other desires, my only job is to grow other people, whether it's my staff sitting out here, Dr. Bond, anybody, Mary, that wants to grow, that is the only job that I see. And that is truly my passion.
I think it shows in our coaching approach that it's never about, at least my experience has been, and I'm not just saying this because Dr. Bond is my coach this year, but the goal of coaching is never to create replicas of who we are, but instead to meet people where they're at and guide a reflective process so that we each grow into our own version of our best form of leadership.
Love that.
So human resources really is the work of people, right?
And by the way,
yes.
the principals that I've had the honor to work with, they've grown me just as much, right? They've taken the time to grow me, to share with me a learning at Walnut Valley. That's a reciprocal relationship. So I just think that's so important.
Yeah. This particular podcast was really created to highlight the leadership practices and beliefs throughout our district, but also it's rooted in my love for Teddy Roosevelt's speech, Man in the Arena. Seth, what line of the speech resonates with you the most and why?
So thanks for this question, and thank you for giving this the heads up on to look at the speech ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and let you in on something. I read this from start to finish, and I didn't realize how long this was, and really what people know about it is just the excerpt that you see on posters or different things. And so what I'm going to talk about is just the line of the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming. And the part of that I really want to emphasize that makes a difference to me, or it really stands out to me, is the part about strives valiantly. And so valiantly to me, I mean, there's a definition that I can tell you that's about being courageous and determined, but doing it with all the things that are happening some days, because there are great, there's great days in education, and then there's days that are going to be harder. And so I picture somebody walking into a headwind of, a 50-mile-an-hour headwind, and you're barely able to move, and nobody else can see the wind because you can't see that coming at you. You just see the effects of what it's doing to the person and how they have to lean into it. So most of the time people don't see all the things that are pushing us back because we don't want that to show. So you've got to be able to walk into that wind and walk into that headwind in a strong, valiant way that doesn't let people think that you're off your game. And so when you walk out of one meeting where you've been beat up a little bit and you walk into a new one, you are able to take that 30-second walk and change your outlook on things and give everybody else a fresh look at who you are, so that they don't see you, striving through that wind.
Diane, what's your favorite line?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to thank you that I have the entire, or the excerpt from the Man in the Arena in my office, because I went into your office my first year, and then I told my kids that's the only thing I want for my birthday is the Man in the Arena. So I have that as well. And but I think it speaks to me. But I think the part going off of what Seth said, at least fails while daring greatly, which was one of the names of the book, Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And what I love about that is there is no science to humans, right? And so a lot of times the Dr. Taylor or others are like, and how do you know this will be successful? When it's this thing that Seth and I've created, or we've sat in a circle even with you and we're going to try something. And I'm like, actually really don't. But what I do know is that if we don't dare greatly, if we don't stand in the gap, if we don't try something different that people say they want, if we just always have to be so conservative in everything that we do and not take risks, then there is no reward for people. And our bottom line here is kids, right? That's the center of the circle. And surrounding that is the staff. And if we can't dare greatly for staff by trying, even if we're going to fail, how do we expect our students that don't speak English, that come from different countries, that are underserved, or our staff that are brand new and see this highly competent district, how do we expect them to dare greatly if we're not, and then not willing to say, I guess that didn't work. So I love that. If you look at Walt Disney, how many times did he fail before he was met with success? And that is usually the story of anybody that's made a significant difference in history, like Hamilton and others. So that's fine.
Whether it's daring greatly or being valiant in how we respond to the risk and the challenges, you both really communicate outward a passion for caring for others. And that's in every text, every email. And as I am listening to you today, that's what I'm going to take away is no matter the task or the department, when we're passionate about caring for others, we get where we need to go. We might not get there the way we thought we were, but somehow we always end up there. So I really appreciate your perspectives and insights. But I would be amiss if we did not end on a deeper level by going through 5 random facts with our dynamic duo in human resources. So this is like our lightning round. First thing that comes to your mind, as long as we don't have to run this podcast through the FCC.
Thank you.
Okay. Diane, favorite color?
Black.
Seth, favorite dessert?
Strawberry shortcake.
Diane, favorite way to relax?
Read.
Seth, best book you ever read?
Where the Red Fern Grows.
Diane, favorite song to perform, because let's be honest, you've definitely done karaoke.
Rapper's Delight. The first rap song ever. I could do the whole thing for you. Just let me know when.
And I will. Diane and Seth, thank you so much for everything you do, for every text, for every email, for every answer that you give us. Sometimes it's a process answer, and a lot of times it's that reassurance that we can do things even when it's hard. For always treating people with compassion and kindness. Thank you both for daring greatly. And to all of you, we will see you in the leadership arena.